In this video, we're going to study how to do the control of the flow, which is called the branching. Sometimes you hear people say if-then structure or if-then-else. This is all called branching. Basically controls the flow of the operation of the program. We also will cover the while loop and the for loop, regular for loop and while loops. So let's first start with the branching. So the objective of this lecture is going to introduce the basic condition structures, how to use if else, else if, and else. Also, we will cover how to do the repeat parts of the programming, which is the looping. So we're going to cover the two types of looping. One is while loop, the second one is the for loop, and use the break to break the loop, and use continue to jump back to the top of the loop, and then some lecture about the plan of the programs. So let's first start with the questions here. So here is the we have a piece of code. So we said, okay, we're gonna have the input called input color, and then the color is obtained, and then color to all lower cases. So then we're gonna have something like this. If the color is yellow or the color is orange, then we're gonna print the color what you hate, right? Print the color and what you hate. If the color is red, then we're gonna see that's gonna be red is gonna be your favorite color, and the blue is gonna be favorite movie and why, right? So then you have the else part. For the else part, you're gonna have for each of those structure, you're gonna have the column. So this is the difference between the condition to the statements or the operation followed to that condition. So you're gonna use the column to indicate which one is the condition, which one is actually the statement. So this is actually a basic structure, and then you notice that in the condition sometimes we gotta use the logical or, logical and, that type of operation. So here's a basic blocks of conditions or of the branching, or the first one is the correct one will be if the password equals, this is a logical equally to secret, then you're going to print access granted. Else you're going to print the else part, right? Notice that for if you have this column and this column. Make sure that in Python we use the indent to actually separate to indicate which part is actually the format. Comparing this piece of code versus this one, you notice that the else part, they have extra spaces, extra blank spaces, which makes this one is syntax error. There is a syntax error for the second one because the indent is not right, right? The indent is not right. So the conditions will be basically whatever you put on the if, after the if, that's gonna be your condition. Sometimes you have else if, like else if, like this one, that will be your condition as well. Here is your condition. Um, for the condition is basically a logical expression that is going to evaluate as a true or false. A true or false. It cannot be both. It can only have a single value. Um, so we call true and false as a Boolean variable or Boolean value. So when you have password equals to secret, this is actually an expression. However, it's a logical expression. The computer is going to evaluate what's the value of this expression. Eventually, it's going to be end up to either true or false. So if the password is actually equals to the secret, then it's going to be valued as true. Otherwise, it's going to be false. Otherwise, it's going to be false. We often create conditions by comparing values. For comparing, there are so many different ways to compare. We have equal, equals to, and we have not equal to. You notice that equal is actually two equal sign, and not equal you have the this sign right here. So it shows you this is not equal, and then you have greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So all of those are the ones that you're going to understand, you're going to remember. So this part you have to remember. It's actually pretty mathematically. The only thing is not equal to, you see, because computer you can't tap that strike over the equal sign. So this is kind of like a mimic the symbol not equal to. So like 5 equals to 5, this will give you true value, and 8 is not equal to 5, which is also true. 3 is greater than 10, which is wrong, right? It's false. 5 is less than 8 is true, and 5 is greater than or equals to 10, which is false. 5 is less than or equals to 5, which is true. So that will be the value of those expressions. Those are the expressions, condition expressions, and we can treat the values as the conditions. Any value that can be interpreted as true or false when used as a condition. So for example, an empty or zero will be actually false. A non-zero will be actually true, all of those. An empty string or zero or none will be actually false. Anything that has the actually value will be actually true. So for example, if money is a value, if money is zero, then it will be false. If it's not zero, then it will be treated as true. So Python is very flexible on those conditions, while other languages are very strict. It has to be a certain type, data type, has to be Boolean. Python is very user friendly in this case, but you got to understand the rules, otherwise you may make some mistakes. Use the compound conditions. Sometimes when our logic is very complex, we will have to use the compound conditions. For example, if the grades is greater than 90 and less than 95, then you got an A, right? If the grade is greater than 95 and less than 100, then you get A plus, right? Something like that. Then you're going to use some operator like and or not. That's the most fundamental logical operators. So all the other logic conditions can be derived from the three. So and means logical and, logical or, logical not. So we can evaluate compound conditions by using a logical operators. So the condition 1 and 2, if you are using logical and, here's a rule of thumb, is when you see there's a false in those values, no matter which conditions, the value of logical AND is going to be false. The only time where you get true value for logical AND is going to be both conditions are true. Okay, it's just like English AND means both, true only if both conditions are true, right? Well, the AND logical operator can be directly applied like this. If username is Mr. Um, Dawson and the password is secret, then print hi Mike, right? So in this case, we're going to evaluate the condition one, which is comparing the username. The second condition will be the password part. So when both of those conditions are true, then we verify this is the mic, so we can print out the mic. Well, the not logical is relatively simple. It's basically simply just go evaluate the value to the offset. So we just flip the value to the offset. So like not true will be false, not false will be true. So it's just like a lot in English. For example, here you have a username and equals something, then we can see while not username, meaning while the username is not if this whole thing, if the username is not false, we can get this username, and so not username is true. So for username is false, right? If the username is for the whole thing is going to be true. So the while loop will continue loop right here. If the username is true, then the whole thing is not true. That will be false. That will be break out the while loop and then carry on, right? So and then this next one is actually called the OR loop, OR indicator. OR indicator is just like English OR. So what it does is you have two conditions. When you see there's one true value, the OR evaluation will be true. The only time you receive false value when both of the conditions are false, you get the false. So it's pretty much like English OR. So here's example. So when we are doing some OR logic, we can see username is equals to guest, or the password equals to guest. Then we're going to see it's guests. So in this one, we're going to evaluate this first part. If this is true, then we're going to print out this. If the password is true, we're going to print out this. If when both of them are not guests, we don't print out this, right? So it's very straightforward, nothing tricky. The precedence of the logical operations, remember since we have three basic operators, the highest level of priority is going to be not, and then the medium one will be logical AND, the lowest one will be actually OR. So for example, A or B and C. So what it does is we'll actually calculate B and C first, and then the outcome of B and C will be doing logical OR with A. And again, all of those are actually part of our discrete math. So in this example, you're actually calculating A and B, and then you're calculating C and D. The outcome of the first operate will be logical OR with the outcome of the second operation. So if you have not, then that will be the highest, right? So the branching structure is the common branching structure will be if, then the condition, then you have the column, then you have the space, then block. So if the condition is true, the block will be executed. If the condition is false, the block will not be executed. Then we have another type. It's called the if condition, then block, else condition, else then the block 2. So what does this mean is if the condition is true, the block 1 will be executed. If the condition is false, then the condition number 2 will be executed. So sometimes we will see others like if the condition 1, else if, elif, condition number 2. So what does this mean is the condition 1 is true, then block 1 will be executed. Condition 2 is true, then block 2 will be executed. And the else if can continue and with many conditions up to n, right? And then you can have block n. For the else part, if none of those conditions satisfied, then block n plus 1 will be running. So those are the basic branching structures. Pretty much covered all the branching structures. So with that concept, you can actually write a simple password guess program. Guess the password. You can see if structure. We can practice if structure, else if, and else if, and else structure. So here's what it look like. If mood is 0, then you can do print I'm happy. Else if mood is 1, then we can print I'm okay. Else if mood is number 2, I'm sad. Else is then we can print illegal mood value, right? So this is a mood calculator, or we can do a pin calculator too. We can do a pin for pin, how much the pin scale. We can do similar things like this. So this is for the branching part of the lecture.